Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. This is Kelsey here today with Kendra Prospero. She's the CEO and founder at Turning the Corner. Kendra, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Kendra, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have an amazing business based out of Boulder, Colorado called Turning the Corner, as you mentioned. It's our kind of life work to end suffering in the workplace. And so I have just spent my whole career basically doing everything I can to help people love their jobs. And now what we do is we work with growing small businesses to make sure that they're creating a culture where people are thriving, which ultimately means if they're thriving, then they're the best at giving customer service. They're better and easier to work with. They're better bosses, better leaders. And then also when they're happy, they're also more profitable. So we're all about the bottom line and how when you create cultures where people are thriving, it actually affects your bottom line.
Yeah, so tell me more about that.
Well, we work with businesses that are between about, I would say around 50 employees up to about 200 or so employees that are growing, and they're growing rapidly. And when an organization like that is growing at that pace, they need more infrastructure in place so that the employees are actually, know what they're doing, how it matters to their larger career, making sure they're managed well, and then also that they're getting what they need from the job in terms of the right pay and the right benefits and the other pieces that we all need in a job. And so what we do at Turning the Corner is provide that infrastructure. We help go in there and get all that laid down so that when they really scale a culture, they've got what they need in place for the employees.
Yeah. So besides creating that infrastructure, what are some other ways that you're able to help a company kind of define and show what that culture looks like?
Well, actually, I will say this, I've kind of figured a lot of this out by just running my own business.
Okay.
And so I always will say that we eat our own cooking and that, I try it out first at Turning the Corner. And then I figure if I can do it and we can do it, then any business can do it. And so what I found to be one of the most important things that I did really early on, because we've been in business now for 12 years, is I got really clear around what my own needs are. Like, what do I need from a job?
Mhm.
And then how does that actually translate into the expectations that I'm going to have for my employees?
Okay.
Because all problems, all leadership trickles down. And so if I'm not really clear on what I want and what I need from a job, then I'm probably going to be bringing the wrong people into the organization. And so a lot of companies will call that their values, which I agree with, but I think sometimes values can get mixed up in a way where they look great on a wall, they're really beautiful, but they're not lived. And if you're not truly living those values where they're your real values, then you end up kind of not having the best clarity. And so, because those values really become the thing you want to hire against, you want to fire against, you want to manage and train, govern, promote, compensate, like all the various things. You want to do that around those values and those expectations. And so that's like the very first thing we do with an organization is get clear on that with them.
Interesting. And then is there just kind of one that you would say is a big core tenet of turning the corner or of one that you see in other organizations?
In terms of a value,
Yes.
well, for us, I mean, every organization is going to have different values. And so for me, like what I need from a job is I need flexibility.
Mm.
And so how that translates into a value for Turning the Corner is that our very first value is family first. And how that shows up in our environment is that we want everybody to take care of themselves. Like they bring their whole person to a job. And if they need to go to a doctor's appointment or they need to pick up their kid after school or they want to take a day off, great, take care of yourself. Go be you, just be awesome at you, right? But the second value is also really important. And this is for me, like I need results. Like I start to feel itchy and almost uncomfortable when I'm not seeing those results in myself. And so how does that translate into a value for the business? It's results beyond expectations. And every one of us feel that same way. And so when we don't see those results and we're not really pulling together as a team, then, we start to question if that person's, maybe the right fit for us.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the ones that, we have. We also have the value of no jerks. That's our favorite one, which is, means like no jerks on the team and also no jerks as clients. And
Ooh.
so that's definitely been a big thing where we've had to walk away from some deals where we just were not the right culture fit for each other.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that before because, like you said, you put your family first, and your family is that company as well. So, not only are you upholding the value of no jerks, but you're also upholding the value of family first.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So is there, you talked about kind of like that small to medium sized company, those fast growing companies that seem to, need the support of turning the corner. Is there a specific industry that you tend to see, more of your involvement in, or a certain vertical, or does it run the whole gamut?
We actually work with almost every industry.
Okay.
And so we've really worked in a surprising number of organizations, including government even.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we've pretty much covered everything over the years. But what I will say is kind of the common tenet among all of the companies is the leader, and that the leaders we work with, they have to have at least a grain of self-awareness. So a grain, because as long as we've got enough there, we can get in there and kind of needle out the rest. But it kind of comes back to that, that value of no jerks. Like we've got to have leaders that believe in their people and believe fundamentally that they're more than just profit as a business. They're also about purpose. They're also about driving great culture. And if we
Absolutely.
don't have that, then we're probably not a fit.
No. And so tell me a little bit about how, it sounds like one, you're living the core values of turning the corner, but also two, how do you differentiate yourself from your competition? Because you're living it, but in what other ways are you able to show that?
Yeah, I think one of the most unique things about us is our overall model. And that, I mean, there's lots of like HR consulting companies out there. We are not just that, though. We are actually an enterprise-sized team that consults for small businesses. And so most of our competition has just one or two functions of HR. But if you go to like a big company like IBM, which is actually where I came from,
Oh.
big IBM would have an HR team that's made up of strategic, compliance, recruiting, talent management, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, compensation, be a big team. Well, that's what we are at Turning the Corner. We're a big team that has all those functions I just named, but we bring all of that into an organization in a fractional way. And so there may be an organization that has for example, a very strong DEI initiative. Excellent. We have DEI consultants and training as well as HR policies that we all link together to drive a DEI effort. Whereas other organizations may have, really big need for talent specifically, and struggling with recruiting. We can go in there and figure out why is recruiting not going as smoothly as it should. That's the HR component of it. What are what's the value proposition for working for that organization? Like that's more the strategic side. And then how do we go find those people? Then that's the recruiting side. And then we train the managers on how to be great managers as well.
So
Yeah.
you truly are an extension of the team then, and of the company.
Yes. Yeah, we're coming in there as really a member of their organization. And oftentimes we even end up on their org chart, even though we're fractional,
I love that.
HR team.
That shows how strong, the relationships that you're able to build are within the company, and that trust as well, I imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, it's so phenomenal to look back over our client list and realize like almost everyone we brought in, or every client that's on our portfolio, that come from like referrals or friends or is repeat business. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's wonderful. We have a great community.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into a question that I was going to ask, talking about how you've been able to scale the company over these past 12 years.
Well, I'm a walk before you run kind of girl. And so there's definitely a few things that I've done that maybe others would move it in a faster way. I never did get like outside funding. I don't even have a line of credit from a bank because I'm like, if I can't do this with customer money, then maybe it's not a real business. And
Yeah.
so
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that funding has really probably limited growth or caused me to grow in a much more steady way,
Okay.
which I think has actually been very healthy. And
Mhm.
so we've really scaled, I would say, 15 to 20% every year over year. And so that's been like, healthy growth, but not just this like absurd, crazy growth by any means. And I'm quite content with the way it's gone.
Mhm.
And actually, this last year we've grown by 100%. So now I think we've kind of reached that potential maybe spot in the hockey stick, as they say, right, where we're now ready to really take off. But I wanted to make sure we had all the right systems and processes and people in place before we really scale and grew. So.
Hmm. And how did this kind of transition from, more of the in-person to more of like the flexibility of the virtual workforce through COVID? How did that affect turning the corner?
It didn't affect us at all because I mean, I have all, as I said earlier, my top value was flexibility. And
Hmm.
so I have always run turning the corner in a way where I said, you come come when you want,
Hmm.
be where you need to be, except for Thursdays from 9 to 1. Thursdays from 9 to 1, we want everyone together. And so before COVID, we would all come together on that day for those hours. We called those our core hours.
Okay.
The rest of the time were flexible hours. And honestly, Kelsey, like I have no idea where anybody is right now. And I'm fine with that. So, so when COVID hit, all we did was just kind
Yeah.
of flip the switch on Thursdays to being on Zoom instead of in
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
It was no big deal for us at all. I mean, we had this most seamless transition. And 2 years before that, even our training program that we offer, because we train managers on how to be managers.
Right.
And we have a great 12-week program that we've been running for 7 years now. And I had kind of gone to the team a couple of years before COVID hit and said, let's see if we can do this hybrid. And they were all like, oh, why are we doing this? And then when COVID hit, I was like, I'm sure glad we did that, aren't
Yeah,
we?
right. You're like, I was ahead of that. I was ahead of the game. Um, and did you see that same flexibility within your clients, or did they need that extra layer of support as that shift happened?
Oh, nobody did well. Nobody did as well as I had hoped in terms of just being ready. I mean, it's a very challenging thing, as you've probably seen too, for organizations to trust their employees enough to let them have full control over their schedule.
Hmm.
COVID forced it because we couldn't be together.
Hmm.
And what happened for individuals was they suddenly realized the freedom they could have by having full control over their calendar, choosing to get out of bed at 6 in the morning or maybe at 8, choosing to shower or not, right? And the time that was freed up from all of that, and the for the most part, a lot of people really have benefited a lot from that flexibility. But from the leadership side, they've also needed to kind of embrace that they can truly trust their employees to get the work done. And surveys have shown that productivity has actually gone up a lot through COVID. Leaders are still struggling with that belief, though, that they don't necessarily believe that that's true. But I absolutely think it's true.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was having a conversation with, a very beloved mentor that I have, and we were having the conversation that before COVID, a lot of people just got credit for showing up. But
Yeah.
now when you work from home, I'm going to the value of, what is it? Expectation or
Results beyond
results,
expectation. Yeah.
results beyond expectations. It gives you that you are, rated or, observed based on the quality of your work, not just for showing up anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how it should be.
Hmm.
I have always challenged this norm of the 40-hour work week.
Hmm.
I've never understood it. And matter of fact, my whole team, I've always said, I don't care how many hours you work, just get the results.
Hmm.
And I think, it's a very different mindset that a lot of organizations are not ready to embrace. But man, I have seen incredible results by not managing hours, but managing only results.
Yeah.
And so I challenge every leader to look at them to actually work their own 3 or 4 day work week.
Yeah.
Because when you have a more of a constrained schedule and you only can get stuff done in 30 hours, you're
Hmm.
way more efficient with your time.
Yeah.
And so I just think that we can all be more efficient and then have a little bit more joy
Hmm.
in our
Hmm.
days.
Really focusing on like that self-care too, and fostering that self-awareness, saying, like I'm getting just as much done in, the times that I'm working, and making sure that, you're not necessarily managing people, but you're managing, you're managing, someone with a specific name. Like, you're managing them how that specific person needs to work, and valuing them as a person over just, a number in a company.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I talk with a lot of leaders who do not agree with me on this and who push back on me. I've got one gal right now I'm coaching actually that she says, I pay this gal 30 or 40 hours a week, and I think she's only maybe working 30 hours a week. And I'm like, so she getting her work done?
Right. Right.
If she's getting her work done, like, who cares how many hours she's working? It may be what you need to say is there more I can give her? Maybe she's that efficient. Maybe she could work and get even more accomplished. But I think that's a way more interesting conversation than just demanding someone sit around and twiddle their thumbs for
Right.
10 hours a week.
Right. That's a great rephrase and reframe, talking about like, could I give her more? Or like, if she's that effective. You've got my brain going now. I'm like, is there like leadership opportunities for her? Like, if she's being
Right.
that efficient, like, is there some like a different role that you can help like have her like be used in? Like, you just got my brain going, but
Yeah. Well, and I mean, a lot of managers don't ask these basic questions to their employees. Like, I mean, let me frame it this way. None of us as leaders should think that our people are going to stay with us forever.
Mhm.
Our jobs are a stepping stone. We
Mhm.
want the stone to be as long as possible, but
Yeah.
it's a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And so if you come at management with that idea that you know that this is just one step in their journey,
Mhm.
then you want to ask them and get to know them and understand things like, what do you want from this job?
Yeah.
When you go to leave this job at some point in the future, which we hope is a long time away, what
Mhm.
would you like to have accomplished here?
Mhm.
And what does this do for your life? And what other things do you need from a job?
Mhm.
And asking those questions not only gives you as a manager the insight into what you can do to maybe create the conditions for them to thrive,
Mhm.
but then you also have a much clearer idea of what you can get out of them, right?
Mhm.
So if I have an employee who says, for example, I've got this new Gen Zer on my team, Zoomer, as they're now somewhat sometimes being called. She's unbelievable. She's a part-time student. She's part-time with us, and she's indicated to us that she really wants to get into sales. So
Mhm.
we're grooming her for more and more things in sales. Is
Mhm.
she ready to go out there and sell? No, absolutely not. That'd be an absurd idea with only being, in the job for a few months. But can we groom her for that? Yes, absolutely. It's
Mhm.
great to know that that's what her goal is.
Mhm.
And then the other byproduct of all of this is that when you ask people those questions, you show that you care. And
Mhm.
care is the number one thing that keeps people engaged and keeps them connected to the organization. How easy is that, right? Just
Yeah.
care for your employees,
Yeah. So, Kendra, what would be one thing you would want, our listeners to either know about turning the corner, or about, the leadership that, you've expressed through your own company and being able to, teach others? What would be one thing you would want our listeners to know?
Well, I think hopefully if they've made it this far into the podcast, they have a good idea of, kind of my general philosophy. And if they're resonating with that,
Mhm.
I would highly recommend that they continue to create an environment where there's more purpose than profit built
Mhm.
into the organization. It isn't anymore just about profit.
Mhm.
Business, nobody wants to work for that kind of business, and the incoming generations absolutely have no interest in that whatsoever. So if you want to keep thriving as an organization and you want to keep growing, you really do need to take the care to understand what your employees need. And there's lots of resources available for you to do, to do that. You're not on your own with that.
Mhm. Mhm. So, if someone wanted to reach out to Turning the Corner, speaking on resources, how would they go about reaching you? Kind of what would be those first steps?
Well, our website is turningthecornerllc.com. And then all my email is just Kendra at turningthecornerllc.com. We have a great assessment on the top of our website that helps you see, like, are you doing the right things to drive the profitability as well as the purpose?
Mhm.
And so that can give you just this really quick insight into what you might need to be considering in terms of other things that you may or may not be doing.
Mhm.
And so that's a really simple thing to start with. And, I mean, we're not the kind of people as just spam you, like go crazy with any of that. So yes, we do gather your information, but it's really just to see if there's a conversation that we could have together to share. So that would be a great place to start.
That's fantastic. Well, Kendra, this has been such a great conversation. I loved hearing your passion about your leadership and being able to, manage managers and teach managers as well, and helping people truly scale their business and their culture in a way that's representative of, the individual company and all, but also the individuals as, as employees and leaders as well. So, Kendra, this has been a great conversation. Again, Kendra Prospero, she's the CEO and founder at Turning the Corner. Kendra, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Kelsey.